My mom married a man who hated my children. I stopped bringing them to visit. 3 years later she called me at 11 at night asking me to come get her out of there. My mother called me on a Tuesday at 11:04 at night. I was tucking in my daughter. When I saw her name on the screen I knew it was bad because my mother hadn't called at normal hours in 3 years. I answered. She said, "Mariana, come for me." I asked if Robert had laid a hand on her. She said, "I'm scared." I told her, "Give me 40 minutes. I made it in 45. I got her out that night. Look, if you're still here, you're invested. A like and subscribe costs you nothing and it helps us find more unhinged stories like this one. We both win. Okay, back to the story. Let me back up. My name is Mariana. I'm 34 years old. I'm a child psychologist. I share an office with 2 colleagues in the Del Valle neighborhood of Mexico City, and I see patients between 5 and 12 years old, almost all of them with stories no one should hear at that age, but we hear them. I live divorced for the past 4 years in a 3-bedroom apartment in the same neighborhood. I have 2 kids. My older daughter is 9. My younger son is 7. Their father has them on weekends. My biological father died of a heart attack 7 years ago. He left my mother with an apartment in Roma Norte and a pension that was enough. My mother is 68, and until 3 years ago I thought she was the only adult in my life I didn't have to be careful around. Then my mother joined Facebook. She met Robert on a Tuesday in May of 2021, as she told me, by accident. Robert was a retired civil engineer, 57, divorced for 10 years, with a grown daughter of 24 who never visited him. He lived in San Ángel in a big 2-story house with a garden. He messaged my mother because they had both gone to the same preparatory school in the 70s. They got married 8 months later. I went to the wedding, small, in his living room, 15 people, and I shook Robert's hand and told him I was happy for my mother. He told my mother that night, in front of me, "Your daughter seems cold." My mother laughed uncomfortably. I said, "Good night, Mom," and left with my kids. That was the first sign. I didn't see it. The first visit with the kids was in June of 2022. They were 7 and 5. We arrived for lunch. Robert opened the door and told us before even letting us in. The kids can't touch the books in the library. Or the paintings. Or the ceramics in the living room. Stay in the dining room. My younger son, 5, got excited when he saw a dinosaur book on a low shelf. He took it out. Robert said, without turning, "Careful there, young man, don't knock everything down." My mother laughed softly. My 7-year-old daughter stood behind me through the whole meal. Nobody asked her how school was going. Driving back my daughter asked me, "Why didn't that man say hi to me?" I told her, "I don't know, honey." She said, "Maybe he doesn't like us." The second visit was 3 months later, for Robert's birthday. My mother begged me on the phone to come. "It's important to him, Mariana." We went. Robert didn't speak directly to the kids the whole afternoon. He told my mother things. "Tell your granddaughter not to yell. Tell them to wash their hands before sitting down. Tell the boy not to go in the garden because the plants are delicate." They served food. Robert served himself first. Then my mother. Then me. Then the kids. My 5-year-old son said he was still hungry. Robert said, "Some kids don't know that food is a privilege, not a right." My mother said nothing. I told Robert, "My son is a child, not an offense." Robert raised his eyebrows and kept eating. Driving back my son asked, "Why did he say food is a privilege?" I told him, "It's not true, honey. You're at home. When we get back I'll make you whatever you want." The third visit was 3 months later, for my mother's birthday. I didn't want to go but my mother cried on the phone, "At least bring the kids, Mariana, they haven't seen their grandmother in a while." I said okay. The kids arrived with a drawing they'd made together. My mother hugged them. Robert was sitting on the couch without getting up. During lunch Robert stared at my daughter for a full minute. Then he told my mother, but looking at the girl, "Look how she eats. Tell Mariana her granddaughter has no manners at the table. Her mother didn't teach her because her father wasn't there." He looked straight at my daughter for the first time in 3 visits. "But here we're going to teach her." My daughter froze with her fork halfway up. Then she got up from the table. Then she went to the bathroom. Then she started crying behind the door. My mother said, "Robert, enough." She said nothing else. I got up. I went to the bathroom for my daughter. I took her out. I grabbed my son. I grabbed the bags. I told my mother, "We're leaving." My mother said, "Please, Mariana, just a little longer." I said, "No. Robert didn't get up. He kept eating. My mother followed us out. She grabbed my arm at the door. She said, "He's going through a difficult time, honey, don't take it like this." I told her, "Mom, she's 9 years old." My mother stayed standing in the doorway while I put the kids in the car. The drive back to Del Valle was silent. My daughter cried in silence most of the way. My son held my right hand the whole trip. I drove with my left, and didn't let go until I parked. That night I put them both in my bed. I promised them they would never have to see that man again. They fell asleep pressed against me. And I told myself, that's enough. My mother called me 5 days later. She said, "I talked to Robert. He understood. It won't happen again. Come for dinner on Saturday." I told her, "Mom, the kids are not going back to that house." "Mariana, you're exaggerating. He's tough but a good person. My daughter is not going back to a house where she gets insulted." My mother went quiet. Then she said, "And can I see you?" I said, "Come to my house whenever you want. The kids love you." "Robert isn't going to come." I didn't invite him. My mother didn't come that week. Or the next month. Or 6 months later. She called every 2 or 3 weeks. It was always the same offer, "Can I have you over to lunch?" Always the same answer from me, "Come to my house." She never came. 3 years passed. The calls got shorter. Sadder. Fuller of silences. My mother stopped insisting. She stopped asking about the kids directly. She'd ask how I was, "Fine, Mom, all fine," and then we'd talk about the weather. She didn't ask me for anything. She didn't say much. But she called. Sometimes I'd ask how she was. She'd say, "I'm here." She wouldn't say more. I know what "I'm here" means coming from a woman who can't speak. But I had 2 kids to protect. I couldn't lower my guard. I kept answering. I kept not inviting Robert. I kept not bringing the kids. The Tuesday of the call at 11:04, I was tucking in my 9-year-old, now 12. My son was already asleep in his room. My daughter was reading a Rick Riordan book when the phone rang. I answered in the hallway. My mother said, "Mariana, come for me." Her voice sounded raw. Like she'd spent 3 hours holding back tears. I said, "Mom, what happened?" "Robert came home drunk. He yelled at me about something with the bank. He lifted me by the neck." "Did he hurt you?" "He put me against the wall. Then he went to the living room. He sat down. I think he fell asleep." I stood in the hallway with my hand over my eyes for 30 seconds. I remembered my daughter crying in the bathroom in San Ángel 3 years earlier. I told my mother, "Give me 40 minutes. I called my ex-husband. I asked him to stay with the kids that night. I drove to San Ángel alone. I arrived at 11:45. My mother opened the door. She had a perfectly delineated red mark on her neck, 5 fingers. Her inner lip was split. She hadn't cried. She was completely dry and very pale. She told me, "He's asleep on the couch. I don't want him to wake up while I'm packing." I went up with her to the bedroom. She packed 2 suitcases. I pulled out my phone and took 6 photos, of the mark on her neck, of the lip, of an ashtray on the floor, of a half-empty bottle of Chivas on the table, of Robert asleep on the couch breathing heavily, and one of the bed where she said he'd thrown her 2 hours earlier. We brought the suitcases down. We left without locking the door. I put her seatbelt on in the passenger seat. I drove back to Del Valle in silence. At the light on Insurgentes I said, "Mom, I'm going to let you stay with me. But it comes with conditions. Whatever you say, Mariana. You're going to divorce. Today. Tomorrow. No later than this week. I'll call a lawyer in the morning. Yes. The kids won't see you until he's legally out of your life. The kids don't deserve another back and forth. Yes. If you go back to him at some point, I won't be here next time." She went quiet. Then she said, "Mariana, forgive me." "Not yet, Mom. First resolve this." The next day I contacted a lawyer someone at my office had recommended, a woman who specialized in gender violence, in her 50s, never in a hurry in any conversation. Then I contacted a private investigator. The investigator took 11 days. He called me on a Monday and said, "I need you to come to the office with the lawyer. We need to talk about what I found." I went. He said, Robert had a first wife for 22 years. Located in Querétaro. He beat her for 18 years. He divorced her, presenting himself as the victim, when she started reporting him. He managed to keep the house she'd been paying on for 15 years. His ex-wife is 48, willing to testify, has medical records of 6 ER visits during the marriage. There's an older daughter, also with similar history. She's also willing to testify. I sat there. Then he said, and there's more. The first wife testified. The first wife's daughter testified. A neighbor from San Ángel testified he'd heard yelling on 3 separate nights over the last months. The judge saw the photos I'd taken that night. Robert was sentenced to 7 years for aggravated domestic violence plus 3 concurrent years for fraud. He was ordered to return 1,800,000 pesos to my mother. The lawyer negotiated interest on the fraudulent promissory notes too. The San Ángel house was liquidated because Robert had mortgaged it with the stolen money and could no longer pay. He ended up with nothing. His grown daughter, 24, sent a letter to my mother saying she was very sorry about what had happened and that she always knew her father was like that. My mother reads that letter from time to time. My mother has lived with us for a year and a half. She sleeps in the room that used to be the study, which we turned into a bedroom for her. My daughter, now 12, redecorated the room with her grandmother. My mother got back 1,800,000. She bought a small apartment on the same street as mine, 6 doors down, with the intention of moving when she was ready. She spent a year and a half not moving. I tell her to take the time she needs. My daughter tells her not to leave. My son tells her if she leaves he's going too. Robert is serving his 7 years in a state of Mexico prison. He doesn't write to us. My mother asked once if he tried. I told her no. She said, good. My daughter, 12, asked me recently if it was hard to go get her grandmother that night. I told her yes. I also told her it had been harder not to go before. My daughter said, Mommy, Grandma did love us. She just didn't know how. I told her yes. I also told her that learning to defend the people you love is the hardest thing there is. Sometimes you learn too late. Sometimes you learn in time. My mother lives with me and my kids. She doesn't talk about her second marriage anymore. I don't bring it up either.